You ever noticed how a shop can feel like it's actually shrinking? I swear, I walked into my space last Tuesday and felt like I was trying to build a dining table inside a telephone booth.
That's because you never throw away a single offcut Tiger. You have a scrap pile that's currently applying for its own zip code.
Hey, that's inventory, but seriously, we're diving into small shop layouts today because, let's be honest, most of us aren't working in a cathedral-sized warehouse. Most of us are fighting for every square inch between the water heater and the lawnmower.
It's the ultimate puzzle, right? Except if you get the puzzle wrong, you end up hitting your funny bone on a cast iron wing every time you try to reach for a screwdriver. So, where do we start? Before we move a single heavy-duty machine, what's the first move?
You've got to play lumber detective. You have to track the path of a board from the second it crosses the threshold. If you're hauling an 8-foot slab of white oak through a literal obstacle course of bicycles and trash cans just to get it near a saw, you've already lost the battle.
I love that. The grand entrance. So, common sense says keep the wood rack near the door, right?
Exactly, those basement dwellers, man, I have so much respect for the guys dragging plywood down a flight of stairs. But if you have a garage, park that lumber rack right by the mouth of the shop. I once tried to keep my sheet goods in the far back corner because it looked cleaner. I spent 3 months doing a weird, sweaty tango with 80-pound sheets of MDF just to get to my miter saw. Never again. My back still sends me a sternly worded letter every time I think about it.
A sweaty tango with MDF sounds like a very specific circle of hell. Speaking of the miter saw, I've seen yours is basically hugging the lumber rack. That's intentional?
It's non-negotiable. You want to break down the rough stuff immediately. It's like a digestive system, Alex. Intake, initial processing, then on to the finer bits.
Okay, so the wood is in, it's broken down. Now we get to the triangle of power. You're big on grouping things by their social circle, aren't you?
Well, tools are like people. Some of them just can't stand to be apart. The jointer, the planer, and the table saw, they're the three musketeers of milling. If you put the joiner on one wall and the planer on the other, you're going to be walking 5 miles a day just to get a board flat and square.
I see homeowners do that all the time with kitchens. The sink, the fridge, the stove. But in a shop, you're also dealing with gravity and long boards. I'm guessing you don't want a wall behind your planer outfeed.
That is the fastest way to turn a beautiful piece of cherry into a dangerous projectile. You need to look at swing space. A tool might only be 2 feet wide, but it needs 8 feet of breathing room on both sides if you're running long stock. I once set up my joiner too close to the drill press. I was halfway through a pass, feeling real good about myself, and clack. The end of the board smacked right into the drill press table, scalped the edge of the wood, and nearly took my knuckles off.
So the lesson is, don't just measure the machine, measure the work.
Precisely. Think about the longest thing you'll ever build. If it's a 6-foot bench, you need 6 feet in front and 6 feet behind that blade.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the table saw. In a small shop, it usually ends up being the island of misfit toys, where everyone puts their coffee and their hammers. Where does it actually belong?
It's the sun in our little woodworking solar system. It belongs right in the heart of the shop. I know the temptation is to shove it against a wall to save space, but that's like trying to run a marathon in a closet. Put it in the middle.
But isn't that a total space killer?
Not if you make it earn its keep. My table saw outfeed table is also my assembly table, my auxiliary workbench, and occasionally the place where I eat my lunch. In a small shop, every flat surface has to wear at least 3 different hats. If a tool only does one thing and it takes up floor space, it better be a damn good thing. Ailer, like that massive 1950s lathe you bought that's currently doubling as a coat rack? We don't talk about the lathe, Alex. It has soul.
It has rust, Tiger. But seriously, ergonomics. You talk a lot about your workbench being near a window. Is that just so you can watch the neighbors, or is there a craft reason?
There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that replaces the sun when you're doing fine joinery. You can buy all the fancy LED strips in the world, but natural light shows you the truth of a surface. It shows you the tear out you missed and the gap in your tenon that artificial light hides. Plus, let's be real, woodworking is a solitary, dusty business. Seeing a tree through the glass reminds you why you're messing with the wood in the first place.
And I'm guessing you keep your hand tools right there too, not tucked away in a beautiful mahogany chest across the room?
Oh, I used to have the wall of glory way over by the door. I looked like a pro, but I spent half my life walking back and forth to grab a different chisel. Now, everything I need for the final act is within arm's reach of the vise. If I have to take more than 2 steps to find a marking knife, I failed the layout test.
What about the floor? In these tiny garage shops, I see people putting everything on wheels. Is that the secret sauce?
Mobile bases are the only reason I can still fit a car in here when the wife asks. But here's the trick people miss. Buy the good wheels. Don't go cheap on the casters. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to nudge a 400-pound bandsaw an inch to the left and having a cheap plastic wheel seize up like a stubborn mule.
Okay, let's pivot to the messy side of things. Dust and power. You can have the most beautiful layout, but if your shop looks like a snow globe of sawdust and you're tripping over orange extension cords, it's a nightmare.
Electricity is the hidden tax of a good shop. You'll never have enough outlets. Period. I once ran a shop off a single circuit, and every time the planer kicked on, the lights would dim like I was in a haunted house. If you're laying out a shop, look up. Run your lines high.
And the dust? That's the big one for small shops. You can't just let it settle.
The biggest mistake is thinking you need a massive industrial cyclone taking up 40 square feet. In a small space, go for point of origin collection. Keep the vacuum close to the sander. And for the love of all that is holy, take advantage of your walls. Vertical storage is the only way to breathe. If it's on the floor, it's in your way. If it's on the wall, it's an asset.
I've seen some people use those French cleat systems. You're a fan?
I love them. It's like Lego for adults. Your needs change. Maybe this month you're doing more turning, so you move your gouges to the front. Next month you're doing cabinetry, you swap them for your squares. A shop layout shouldn't be a tombstone. It shouldn't be set in stone. It's a living thing. It should grow with you.
Speaking of things that grow, let's talk about the clamp wall. Why is it that no matter how many clamps a woodworker has, the layout never seems to account for just one more?
It's a physical law of the universe. Clamps expand to fill all available space. But the real tip? Put them near your assembly area. There is a very specific kind of panic that sets in when your glue is drying, the joint is slightly misaligned, and your clamps are all the way on the other side of the joiner. It's the glue up scramble, and it's aged me 10 years.
I can see the gray hairs appearing just thinking about it.
Let's talk about safety alleys. This is the boring stuff that saves your life. You need clear paths. If you have to hop over a bucket of scrap or shimmy past a protruding saw blade to get to the fire extinguisher or the door, your layout is a trap.
That's a heavy point. It's easy to get caught up in where does the new shiny tool go and forget how do I get out if something goes wrong.
Precisely. I actually mark my floors with tape sometimes. It sounds obsessive, but it keeps the creep from happening. That pile of plywood starts creeping into the aisle, and before you know it, you're doing a parkour routine just to turn off the lights.
So if we're summarizing the Tiger Den philosophy for someone staring at a cluttered 10 by 10 shed right now, what's the big takeaway?
Stop looking at your shop as a room for stuff. Look at it as a machine for making things. Every time you stand at a tool, ask yourself, where did I just come from and where am I going next? If the answer involves a 3-point turn, move the tool.
And don't be afraid to change it.
God, yes. My shop has had 6 different final layouts in 3 years. Each time, I learn something new about how I move. You don't fail when you move a workbench. You fail when you keep working around a mistake because you're too tired to fix it.
Well, I think that's our tuition for the day. No, literally. I'm not saying that phrase. You told me not to.
Good. It's just common sense wrapped in a bit of sawdust. Build the shop that lets you work, not the one that looks good on the internet.
Amen to that. Next time, can we talk about why you have 3 different table saws, but only one set of measuring tapes you can actually find?
That is a mystery for the ages, Alex. A mystery for the ages.
Join us next time on the Tiger Den. Until then, stay sharp.
And keep your fingers away from the spinny bits.